Hi, my name is Noah Katcher, and I'm a senior in the Huntsman program in International Studies and Business at Penn with concentrations in statistics and business economics and public policy. And today I'll be talking a little bit about cyclical poverty and income dynamics in the Appalachian region of the United States. Now, your first question is probably pretty simple. What exactly is the Appalachian region of the United States? Well, the first thing that anyone from the region would quickly correct you on is that it's not the Appalachian region, it's the Appalachian region. And that especially speaks to the strong cultural heritage that the region shares. Now, generally speaking, Appalachia can be considered the area that generally surrounds the Appalachian Mountains in the United States. It's primarily rural. It stretches the whole way from New York down south to Alabama and Mississippi. But for a more research-guided and specific designation, we can follow the designation from the United States government back in the 1960s when the Appalachian Regional Commission was founded by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. Now, that designation defined Appalachia specifically as being 420 counties across 13 states, starting in upstate New York, traveling then down through Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, through Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then finishing in Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. Now, across those 13 states, as I mentioned before, there's always been shared a rich cultural heritage. Although it stretches seemingly the entire length of the United States, there is something that's always been culturally similar amongst this entire region. Now, why has it gained attention in recent years? Well, ever since the 2016 election, a lot of people have started to care about what is happening in real America, rural America, the parts of America that they might not have ever seen or understand or grown up in or certainly not visited or traveled to. This led to the success of certain books like the memoir Hillbilly Elegy, which dominated the New York Times bestseller list for almost a year after its publishing, solely because it seemed to give a true insider's account as to what life seems to be like in the Appalachian region of the United States. Obviously, this interest has been driving American politics and American social commentary in the past few years as people struggle to understand what a true West Virginian's life might be like as they sit back in New York or San Francisco. However, as a local native, I can say that life there is truly not all that different. However, it is important to understand some of these cultural dynamics if we want to understand exactly why there's been such a shift politically there. My primary thesis in my research has always been driven by the idea of cyclical poverty. So what is cyclical poverty? It's simply the idea that we say that not only is there poverty in the region, which is absolutely undeniable today, but that it's something that is more intergenerational in nature, something that has lasted for a very long time, and something that people might be more born into than necessarily just have happened to themselves or be a function of their own decision-making or their own ability to make a living wage. Now, in order to understand this, there's really two sides to the literature to dive into. So there's the anthropological side, so there's the social issues, the cultural issues, sort of how have we gotten here today and why are people acting the way they are? And then there's the economic side, so far more the data-driven aspect, understanding how can we take what we understand about the social issues today in Appalachia and then truly translate those into numbers and understand what is the data telling us about why and what is truly driving this kind of intergenerational or long-term poverty in the region. So let's start a little bit by understanding the social issues that are currently in Appalachia. Well, ever since the Appalachian Regional Commission was founded in the 1960s, there's been a significant amount of research that's gone into understanding the region from an anthropological perspective. Especially, several papers in the 90s took a look at understanding the cultural of Appalachia, the development of a, quote, Appalachian ethnicity, which really defines people as being more adherent to things like subsistence agriculture and independent economic living. So not people who don't necessarily look for having mainstream jobs or maybe working in the modern market, but are more focused on self-sustenance and specifically in the development of the United States economy have been very unwilling to adapt into an industrialized technology, or certainly at the very least much slower. This kind of intergenerational interdependence or really lack of adherence to the generally industrialized economy, especially in the late 20th century, the late 19th century going into the 20th century, has proven to be an extremely strong motivator for perhaps what has grown this Appalachian culture into what it is, and why a dependence on not only what I might do for work, but what my parents did for work, what my grandparents did for work, and how those things can all just be very linked in terms of forming how people look at a more traditional economy and a more traditional way of life.